Hey. Happy Sunday. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning to you as well, my love. How are you? Happy Sunday. Happy return to Mama Meditations. I am Coach Yolanda, international spiritual life coach, certified birth doula and lactation coach. Let's see, what else does she do? Reiki master, so many other things. But the one thing that I am claiming in this moment is happy to be in connection with you in this moment. The year of the inner child has been a gift for me and hopefully for you. And so I thought about what gifts are we giving to ourselves? We're doing all of this work, we're doing all of this revelation, going back into the past and looking at things with a different perspective. Hopefully, we are taking that information and giving ourselves a gift. Good morning and happy Sunday, Kita758. Oh, thank you. I feel beautiful. I do. I really I'm so incredibly blessed. These past couple of weeks after going through a rough patch have been really restorative. And that word was also coming up a lot for me over this past week of how are we taking all of this information to restore ourselves to our original states of being, our original state of wellness and wholeness. No matter what you may think of your life journey, coming into existence, we all come into this human plane in a particular energy, and it is one of balance. And then things happen. They can happen in vitro, they can happen in the earliest stages of our lives or along our lifespan to change the trajectory of our experience. Um, but I am telling you that you are whole, you are perfect, you are as you are intended to be. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I try. I do this for y'all. You know, part of me enjoying and feeling beautiful is wanting to share that and spread that. And this space is a large part of that. Even though there are times when I'm reluctant to do this, it always makes me feel beautiful. So thank you. And so all of these conversations that I'm having with myself about restoration, about, repairing things that aren't necessarily broken, but I definitely see are out of balance, led me to today, letting us give our inner children the peace and the justice that they deserve. I don't know that we think about that enough. That the healing isn't just because I want to feel better, I want to, be stress free and I want to live my life in a particular way. It's about restoring order and balance to the universe. Because when any one of us is feeling out of balance, all of us are out of balance. And we are seeing that on a large scale. We got a lot of people out of balance who are making choices and decisions that impact all of us. And so that is why today we're going to talk about giving our inner children the things that they've been asking for. So if there is something in your life experience that you believe that you never got or that you may have not received in abundance or in the way that you needed, it may be the reason why your inner children are acting up and not even really acting up. It's they're making a request. They're saying, I want this to be seen. I want this to be heard. I want this to be recognized, validated, acknowledged. And no one told me how to do that. So I'm going to do it in the way that I think my 8-year-old would do it, my 10-year-old, 15-year-old, or even my 35-year-old. Whatever level of emotional maturity you may be experiencing, it's possibly connected to the level of maturity that you were able to develop when you were younger, even if that younger self was yesterday. Because there are certainly things that I did yesterday that I wish to do differently today and going forth. We are consistently and constantly evolving and growing. And so if we look at ourselves in that way of, I know what I know and I do what I do based upon what I know, what I believe, and what I hold to be true. And when I learn something new, explore something new, reveal something new, then I can make other choices in terms of the way that I think about myself, other people, the way I feel about myself or other people, or the way that I'm behaving or the behavior that I see in other people. So for me, that is the blessing of inner child healing, so that I'm giving my children, my 8-year old self, 10-year old self, all of who I have been in this life experience, I'm giving them a gift of restoration, of information, of wisdom, experience, and knowledge. And so today, that's what we're going to focus on. And so one of the ways, there's a myriad of ways for us to get to those questions in our life. What do I do with this information? How does it help me? How does it support me? How does it move me forward? There are a myriad of ways. I like to ask myself questions. I like to journal. During my own self meditation, meditative moments, I'm asking these questions. When I feel myself about to retreat into maybe a less or immature sense of being, there's a question. What's going on here? What is really being revealed by your thought, your feelings, and your behavior? And so, one of the questions that I like to ask is, what do I require to feel? And I can fill in the blanks, and we can all do that at any time. Fill in the blanks. What do I require to feel a particular way at a particular time? And so maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's before you go to bed, maybe it's in the midst of you feeling yourself about to get into overwhelm. What do I require? And the language that you use to ask yourself questions has to be from a position of power, a position of solution and problem solving, not one of victimization and telling the same old story. And so I like to say, what do I require? What do I desire? What do I deserve? Or what do I intend to experience right now? What is it? Now, you may not always have the time in the middle of a moment to ask yourself this question, which is why it's important we ask these questions when we do have the time, when we have our alone moments, which I hope that each and every single one of us are carving out for ourselves every single day. You deserve the most of your time. We are so inherently programmed to give our time in other places and spaces. Sometimes we leave a little bit for ourselves. You deserve the bulk of your time so that you can do the restoration that is required for us to deal with all of the things that we have to deal with. If we are not replenishing ourselves, and not just on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis, if we are not replenishing ourselves, how are we giving? Are we giving from a place of limitation or depletion because we haven't taken care of ourselves? It's the reason why you need to eat, every couple of hours. You need to make sure you're hydrated. You need to make sure you're sleeping. You have to restore and replenish yourself so that you're able to give in an equitable way. And so when you have your quiet time, your me moments, your self-care moments, whatever you call it, it's a good time to ask yourself some questions. And so what do I require to feel now? And for me, I know most of the time it's safety. So my question typically looks like, what do I require to feel safe right now? And I know that because most of the inner child work that I have done for myself is centered around not feeling safe. I came into this world experiencing violence. I was sharing with my beloved the other day, I have marks on my neck because my birth experience was violent. I had to be pulled into the world. My head, even though some of you will say, oh, you have the perfect head for being bald, it really has some dents from my birth experience. So I came into the world violently, and it has been most of my life experience that a lot of the trauma that I've experienced in my past, and even things I've said and done to myself, have been violent. So being safe is typically what I require so that my inner children are not misbehaving, acting up, showing up at the most inappropriate moments. And so my sentence typically looks like, what do I require to feel safe now? And then I also frame it, what do I require to feel safe physically? What do I require to feel safe mentally? What do I require to feel safe emotionally? What do I require to feel safe spiritually? Because those are all of the parts of who I am. I'm a physical being, a mental being, an emotional being, a spiritual being. I'm all of these things. And so to make sure that I'm giving myself the gift of all of this information that I have, I need to ask myself these questions. What do I require to feel? And sometimes it's not present day me that I'm asking, it's the past me, because that's when stuff shows up. When past me feels disrespected, she's going to show up in a way that she did or didn't feel like she had the ability to do when she was younger. And so most of what I center my healing on is, do you feel safe? And safe for me can have a wide berth of a definition. It's not just physically safe. It's safe in my body. It's safe in the words and the language that I'm using to myself and to others. You know, if someone wants me to engage in a conversation that may require me to say some things that could be, you know, unkind, that may not feel safe for me. I may not be ready to tell you what I need to tell you. And so if I'm asking myself those questions, what do I require to feel safe? Then I'm always consciously aware of what's coming out of my mouth, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, because safety is a priority for me. And not in a way that makes me so, hypersensitive to everything that I'm keeping myself in a box, but in a way that, again, I'm asking, what do I require? What do I desire? What do I deserve? And what do I intend? So when you're asking yourself these questions, you want to be careful that you ask them from a position of power. Your self concept of yourself has to be that you do desire the thing, you do deserve the thing, you do require the thing, you do intend the thing. It can't be from, you may want to avoid asking the question of, well, I don't like to feel this way, because the minute you start that, you may also go into the deep well of victimization, and it could take you right back to the trauma. And then you're not really looking from a perspective of healing. You're looking from a perspective of, sticking your thumb in the wound. So a lot of times when you ask people, what do you need? They may start with, well, I don't want this. I hate that. I can't stand that. And that's not really a position of power. That's you coming from a position of, this is my pain. This is my suffering. And I'm going to tell you what it is so that you can figure out what I need. We need to come from a position of power that says, I know I deserve this. I know this is important to my well being. And not, I need you to figure out what you want to give me by me telling you what I didn't get in the past. I need to be clear about what it is that I need. So when you're asking yourself these questions, try as much as possible to avoid the, well, I don't want this and I don't want that, and I hate when this happens and I hate when that happens. You might need to start there to start the conversation, because for some of us, it is easier to talk about what we don't like, because no one ever taught us how to stand firm in what it is that we like and know that we love and deserve it. But don't stay there. Don't stay in that position of negativity where you will keep yourself in the energy of seeing things from a victim place. I don't know any victims. I don't know any. I know conquerors, I know survivors, I know people who have managed to create something from nothing. But what I don't know are people who are stuck in victimhood. They may be, but I'm not seeing them that way. Because if I see you that way, then I have to see myself that way. And I don't intend to do that. And so let's get used to and comfortable with coming from a position of power to say, I desire, I require, I deserve, and I intend. These are the things that I know will support my well being. And I know I deserve them. Because when you come from that position, then you also start to think with the energy of this is possible. I'm going to make choices that align with that. And I'm not going to let anyone else influence what I know I deserve. Because if we start from the well, I don't want this, then other people will try to tell you what you do want. It's like, well, I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm not, appreciated. And then here comes someone else along and tells you, well, this is the level of appreciation that you deserve. Since you are not clear about what it is that you want, what you deserve, and what it looks like, you're going to be dependent upon other people to give it to you, and you're going to think that you're getting it. We need to be clear about what it takes for us to be well, for us to be balanced. Kita says, the most important law of attraction is the law of vibration. So if you're coming from the, well, I'm just going to accept what people give me, all right, don't be surprised when you still don't feel fulfilled because you were not clear about what it is that you deserve. What you deserve has to be living in your heart, has to be living in your throat, has to be expressed. But the honest truth is not many of us were not taught how to do that. Many of us were taught be thankful for what you get. I don't know if you had the experience. I know I did when I was younger, where my parents were like, don't ask for anything. We're going to such and such's house. Don't ask for anything. And you're sitting in there hungry, thirsty, you tired. All of these things are going in your body, but you have to betray it because you were taught not to ask for anything. Or we're going in this store. Don't you ask for anything. And you see all of these things that you're like, but I like these things. So we have been taught not to trust our own bodies, not to trust our own mind when there is something that we need. How many of us have been taught that if you're meeting someone for the first time, let's say you're going out to dinner, you know you're hungry, but you want to get a salad because you don't want to come across, in a particular way. If I go out with you and I'm hungry, trust me, I'm eating everything on the right side of the menu and I don't care what it looks like, what you say about me. That's me being true to my body and giving my body what it needs instead of these niceties that we have been taught to operate under that teaches us how to betray ourselves so that we have a host of people who are not clear about what they truly desire. And we also have a host of people who think they are entitled to things because no one has really taught us how to trust what's going on in here. Our expectations have been made for us, our expectations have been determined by others, and we've gone along with it. And so now that we are in what I believe to be the age of self discovery, we get to learn what feels good in here. So we have to ask ourselves, what do I require to feel safe, to feel free, to feel at peace, to feel respected? And then answer the question. And so for me, if I ask myself, what do I need to feel physically safe? I need the volume to be a particular way. If I'm in a room and there's some angry, high level stuff going on, I can't be in that. I don't want to be in that environment. If I'm watching something and it's violent, I don't want to watch that because I know what it does to me. I know how it makes me think, even though I am also a true crime lover. I have to be careful about not overindulging in that type of stuff because I know what it does to me. I can start feeling paranoid. I can start looking at people differently. I'm always asking my beloved, are you trying to kill me? It's like, why is that always the first thing in your mind? Probably because number one, I'm from Jersey. And number two, because I sometimes will think that way because safety is important to me. And so I have to work hard at asking myself, what do I require to feel safe? And recognizing that I am responsible for providing it. I am responsible for making sure it happens. Girl, listen, the Lifetime movies, the Tubi movies, which I happen to love, they will do it. They will make you question everything and everyone. It's like, I can't trust anyone because of the Lifetime movies, the Tubi movies, and all of the other melodramatic, representations of what has been going on in the world. But it's our responsibility, because I'm telling you, when those moments come up, when you don't feel safe, it's not. It may feel like a present day thing, but it's probably connected to feelings of unsafety from your past that you haven't restored or have not been resolved yet. And one of the things that would be a crime and a sin and a shame is that if there were experiences in your past that other people contributed to you not feeling safe, now you have a limited view of yourself and a limited human experience. We say it all the time. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. If my human experience is limited because of other people's behavior, I have to do something about that. Now, there are circumstances where they are beyond our control. Things like the behavior of other people on 9/11 now has caused all of us to be affected in the way that we travel in the sky. You're going to take your shoes off. You're going to get in that little booth that shows all of your business. Because of other people's behavior, we now have been impacted. The pandemic, because of other people's behavior, y'all don't want to wash your hands. Y'all want to cough in each other's faces, come to school, come to work sick. Now we all have to be impacted, and we have to change and limit our experiences because of other people's behavior. But if you think about it on a personal level, there are things that you have experienced in your childhood and your most recent past, other people's behavior. Are you now creating limitations in your life because of that? I will be the first to say that I absolutely did. Of course I did, because safety is a priority for me. When other people did not make me safe, I limited my exposure to other people. I limited the way in which I loved. I limited the way in which I interact. I'm not going to share too much of who I am with people because I've been hurt in the past. We do it all of the time. We do it all of the time. And I'm here to tell you that's what victims do. When you feel like you've been victimized, you internalize that. Some of it had to have been my fault. Some of it had to have been because of the way I am. Some of it had to be because of me. So now I have to do things differently so that it doesn't happen again. It is a natural response to trauma. It is a natural response to feelings that we are not comfortable holding and having because we didn't create it. I didn't create this feeling of not being safe. It was something that I learned. Living in this world, it's something that we learn. I remember and have a deep memory of being maybe 11 years old, and I walked to the store to buy my mother a birthday cake. It was her birthday. I had saved up my money, and I'm going to walk to the market to get her a birthday cake. So I do that. I'm in the market. I've got my cake. I'm about to leave, and in walks one of my father's oldest friends. They had served in the military together. I knew him, his uncle. My family always socialized with his family. I knew this man. And he says, "Hey, baby, what you got there?" And I said, "A cake for mommy." And he said, "Oh, that's so sweet of you." And this man proceeded in broad daylight in front of other people in public, kissed me on my lips, and I felt his tongue on my lips. I can remember it like it happened yesterday. And so my body immediately reacted to that, like, this is not supposed to happen. And I remember looking around like, is somebody going to do something? I don't even know if other people were paying attention. But at that moment, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was inappropriate. And all I could think about is, I need to go home and tell someone. And so he had offered me a ride home. I said no. I ran out of the store. I ran home, cake still in my hand. And I remember saying to my mother, telling her what happened. And her first question to me was, "You let that man do that to you in front of everyone?" And I immediately took that on as it was my fault. immediately took that on as I did something wrong because I didn't stop him, because I let it happen, and nothing was ever said about it again. I did notice that we never socialized with their family again, and it wasn't until that man passed away that I think my mother went to his funeral or something, but no one explained to me that it was wrong for him to do that. No one defended me in that moment. No one had a conversation with me about what my body experienced and my mind knew what was wrong. So what I did as a young person was internalize that it was my fault. And that led to a history of letting people get away with things and internalizing it as something that I should have done, should have stopped, should have known better. Right? So many of us have that story where someone else's behavior causes us to see ourselves in a limited way, and then we adopt all of these new protocols and we take on other people's stuff. And so inner child healing and giving your child a gift, like I get to give my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old a gift to say, baby, that had nothing to do with you. That was not your fault. That man was wrong. Your mother's response was wrong. And I know my mother loved me, and I probably can envision what she said to my father, which led to them no longer socializing. I don't know what happened because no one ever had the conversation with me. I was never privy to the outcome of someone else's bad behavior. And so what do? I internalize it. And that can lead to a lifetime of people pleasing, of letting people get away with stuff, and always thinking that I'm wrong, even when I'm right. And so I'm saying and sharing all of this with you because my 10-year-old deserves justice. My 10-year-old, your 10-year-old, wherever some point in time in your life where you feel that someone disrupted your peace or your sense of being who you were, or you felt like you had to betray yourself in order to function, you deserve peace from that. And you deserve justice. And it may not come in the justice where the other person is punished or they say, I'm sorry, or you get some kind of forgiveness. You have to give that to yourself. So ask yourself, what do I require to feel safe now? And so, in those moments when I'm feeling like that 10-year-old holding that cake with nowhere to run, and I'm being asked, or I'm experiencing a feeling of you about to be disrespected, or somebody is about to do something that is going to make you feel unsafe, I get to stop, hold up my boundary, and say, hey, in this moment, I know I deserve to feel safe. And if you are creating something that doesn't feel safe for me, then I deserve to either ask you to move out of my way or I remove myself. Whatever it is that you come up with the answer for. Now, last week or 2 weeks ago, we did talk about isolation versus self preservation. If you feel like you are getting into the habit of removing yourself from everyone and everything, that might be isolation, and you may not really be doing what's healthiest for you. No one ever told me how to set healthy boundaries, but now that I know how to do that, that's what keeps me safe. That's how I have restored myself to tell my 10-year-old self, you don't have to feel bad about other people's behavior towards you. That has nothing to do with you. And you don't have to take that on. How many of us are always questioning, why did so and so stop talking to me? Did I do something? Was my hair not looking right? Why is that man breaking up with me? Is there something wrong with me? Why, we can all have moments of self-reflection where we look at ourselves honestly, but we should never have to take on other people's behavior as something wrong with us. So that is the gift that you can give. Because if you are still engaging in that type of behavior where everything is your fault, where you think that you're wrong, where I can't function in normally or the way that I would like in my relationships because of something from my past, then asking yourself these questions is about restoration. It's about healing. And it's not necessarily about the other person in the moment. But you might find that this can restore your relationships in some way because you're not always running or avoiding or withholding. And so you also might need to ask yourself, what's your relationship with restoration? Do you look at something that's been broken and think I can fix this, or I'm just going to throw it away and get another one, or I'm just going to ignore that it's broken, because that's the way that I used to look at myself, as something that always needed to be fixed, or I'm just going to ignore it or run away from it and act like it never happened. And so much of that behavior comes from those experiences in the past. It's like, just act like it didn't happen. It's like, how are you going to act like it didn't happen when it shows up in everything that you do and everything that you are? The vibration of it is still with you. And because I can remember that story that I just shared so vividly, I know it's still with me. And I know that that 10-year-old that lives in me is still feeling unsafe because no one explained what happened. And so I get to give her a gift and say, let me tell you something. It wasn't your fault. And your mother's reaction was improper. Someone should have explained to you that sometimes adults, even if you've known them for a long time, are not safe. And sometimes they are very inappropriate. But that still has nothing to do with you. And the fact that it happened in broad daylight in public and no one came to your aid is also a miscarriage of justice. Nobody said that to me, but I can say that now, that somebody should have protected you in that moment. And I'm here to do that now. So if you are ever feeling 10-year-old Yolanda, that you're about to be disrespected and violated in that way, present day Yolanda is here to make sure that doesn't happen. So you don't have to retreat. You don't have to absorb or take on somebody else's, misbehavior. You don't have to do that. You don't have to question yourself, well, should I have dressed differently? Should I have done this differently? How many of us are spending so much time trying to limit ourselves to be acceptable and in a way that other people can take us, and we're betraying ourselves. I don't care anymore how to fit in. I care what matters to my heart. Fitting in is the least of my concerns or problems. You either take me the way that I am or you don't at all. I no longer have to do that. And that is a gift that I can give my little people. I can say, we don't have to do that. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to be overly nice. We don't have to people please. We don't have to overthink all of the ways that we show up and look. And we don't have to do all of that. We get to be free. And so, one of the answers to what do I require to feel safe now? Freedom. And living my life in such a way where I'm not having a limited experience because I'm afraid of what other people will do, will say, or how they will respond. Not part of my thought process. It comes up, particularly with the people that I love, particularly in the places, in the spaces where I have that reciprocal respect and energy of love. I want to be pleasing in the places and spaces. Like, that's why I dressed up for y'all. Hey, Giselle, I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did. Because we are literally creating a relationship with one another and with ourselves. And so, yes, it does matter in those places and spaces, but that criticism and judgment that comes from places and spaces of people who don't even really want to know the real me doesn't matter. And I'm not creating space for that in my thought process when I'm doing something. I used to be so careful about things being perfect because what is that group of people going to say, and what will the people who've done it before say? Will they think it looks, shabby next to? Doesn't matter. What does it feel like in my heart? And is it good enough for me to feel good while I'm doing it? That is a gift, again, that I can give those parts of me that at times still feel like she's not enough, that the world is not a safe place, that love is not present, that she doesn't deserve, or how dare you ask for, or how dare you require. Parts of her still remain. And so the inner child healing, all of it, again, it's not just things from 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's the me that I was yesterday, and the child in me today has to feel safe and secure in order to explore what else is out there for me. How do I know what I deserve if I'm living such a limited experience? So my human experiences cannot be limited because of other people's behavior. I know that there are things beyond my control. Like I talked about the travel, we talked about our health and safety now because we've gone through a pandemic. And there are just particular things that we have to be vigilant about because other people's behavior. But my personal experiences, things that I experience with family members, with friends, with strangers, I get to look at those things differently. And I get to say, I'm not going to let that person's behavior limit how I give and receive the bounty of life. There are so many things that I can experience, but if I look at it with a limited view, I'm never going to believe that it's possible for me to even experience them because somebody else wasn't a healed individual. I don't get to explore the world. Absolutely not. I think about some of the choices that I've made as a mother, as a parent. And I am a parent, I am a mother who has buried a child. That child passed away during a school activity. So, certainly, when my other children were still going to school or going to new schools, you know, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like I can't have this happen again where another child is not being, taken care of in the way that they should be, that could cause the end of their life. And so, as my youngest daughter was getting ready to go off to college, of course, that thought is in my head. I'm like, well, should I tell her that she can only apply to schools that are close to home because I want her close to me because I need to be able to? If I let other people's behavior, other people's impact in my life change the way my life is experienced, I could pass that on to my child. And so, of course, in my heart, I want her to be safe, but I also want her to make choices that make her heart sing. So, of course, she chose to go far. She chose to go far away. I had to learn how to not let my fears impact the way that she chose to live her life, the bounty of her life, whatever it was going to look like and whatever it would be. My other child, who has decided to be in the sky, most of her life as a flight attendant. If I said to her, well, it's not safe and you can't trust people and I need you close to me so I can keep my eye on you, I would impact and limit her life experience because I have unresolved trauma because of the way in which their sibling passed away. That's not fair. There's nothing worse than limiting somebody else's experience because you have unresolved trauma. You don't want to heal something. So now you're impacting everyone else. And they don't get to live their life in the way that they desire, the way that they require, and the way that they intend to make you feel a particular way. How many of us had that experience from our own caregivers, from our own parents? My parents grew up in the 40s and the 50s in the deep South. So, of course, they raised me with a particular sense of being safe. Don't do this. Don't speak to white folks that way. Don't do this. Don't do that. And I know that it came from a place of love, but that impacted the way in which I saw the world and the way in which I saw myself. It made me think of myself in limited ways. Well, I must not be a particular thing if I've got to tone down who I am for somebody else's comfort or so they won't hurt me or, be prejudiced against me. And I still see it today with this respectability politics where people are like, oh, we don't want to be too loud and upset, the status quo. They've allowed us to enter into their institutions of learning. We can't go in there and tell them how it should be. If your human experience, which is limited anyway, we are all going to expire at some point. So our human experience is already limited. Why would you engage in particular limitations because of someone else's behavior? Telling yourself, well, I can't do this because I'm too old, because they say I'm too old, or society says I'm too old. Now, if your body is telling you you're too old, then I would say listen to it. But other people's opinions, other people's lack of imagination is going to tell you how you're supposed to live your life. Think about it. And where did that come from? It's a learned behavior. And the more we become aware of the learned behavior that we have absorbed and adopted, the more we can give a gift of peace and justice to the versions of us that are still within us. My 35-year-old who went through a horrific divorce deserves to know that love is possible. My 42-year-old that buried a child deserves to know that a good life is still possible. That grief does not have to have me in a chokehold where I'm not willing to experience good and wonderful things. And so when I'm asking myself these questions, what do I require to feel a particular way? It's what do I require to heal those versions of me that feel like they were denied something, that feel like something disrupted their peace, that feel as though they never got justice, that feel as though they were never seen and never heard. What do I require? What do I deserve? And what do I intend to be and live as, so that I can free them from that limitation? Now, I am also a believer that there are some limitations in life that are good for us. Overindulging in particular things that can hurt and harm you, we need to be limited. We don't need to be out here drinking, consuming drugs, alcohol, sex, all of the other things, overindulging in things that can hurt and harm us. Limitation, discipline can be and is very good. But if there is something that will bring and restore balance to your well-being because you didn't experience it, or you experienced it in limited supply, then why not give it to yourself now? Why not believe that you still deserve it? Because you do. If you had an experience in your childhood where you never learned how to establish friendships because maybe you moved a lot, or maybe it just wasn't something that you were allowed to do, you deserve to have that experience now. You don't have to say, well, I'm too old now to learn how to make friends. No, you still are deserving of that. If you went through romantic relationship after romantic relationship, and now you're like, I don't want to even be bothered. That really hurts my soul when I hear people say that. I used to be one of those people. But it hurts my soul when I hear people say, my heart has been broken so many times, I don't even want to think about it. That heart of yours deserves to be loved, and deserves to be loved fully. You were created in the image of love, and you deserve to give it and receive it. So, what do you require to feel love now? And how do you engage in experiences where that is demonstrated fully? I talk about my life now and how I am experiencing love, and it's not just limited to romantic love. When I tell you I love the people that I work with and they love me, when I tell you on Friday, I had so much food on my desk because either people are paying attention, or maybe I'm telling them that I'm not always eating throughout the day. And every so often, I'll have a bowl of fruit on my desk, and then maybe some crackers, or maybe somebody has made something particularly for me and they're bringing it in a dish. These people love to feed me because they notice that this lady never takes a lunch break or is never feeding herself. We never see her eating. I didn't ask them to do that, but they paid attention and they've been feeding me. I got off of work one day and my beloved met me in the parking lot. He's like, I know you didn't eat today. Here's something to eat. Love is everywhere. I didn't know that. I didn't know it. And I didn't know that I deserved to see love everywhere and to have it in every single one of my human interactions. Doesn't mean that everyone that I come across is pleasant and is loving. But when I do come across those unpleasant, unloving experiences, guess what I do? I'm still loving. You're not going to make me be bitter just because you're bitter. You're not going to make me be nasty just because you're nasty. This is who I am. And that is a gift that I get to give my inner children for those moments when they did not feel loved, when they did not feel protected, when they did not feel like anyone understood what they were going through. You mean to tell me I get to give that to them on a consistent basis? It only comes through looking at my life as a bunch of information that I can utilize to restore myself to the original state of being, instead of looking at it as, well, I've had some trauma in my life and therefore I can only experience life at this particular level. One of the books that has been supportive, and I think I may have shared this before, is The Body Keeps the Score. This is not, this is scientific information about what happens to our brain and our body because of trauma. Um, it is a masterpiece. Whew. Because if you're seeking truth about what trauma has done in your life, this can provide you with some answers. But the bulk of those answers have to come from in here. And we have to be willing to ask ourselves the question: what do I require? What do I deserve? What do I desire? What do I intend? I intend to have a good life filled with loving experiences that exceed even my own human limitations that I have created for myself. I want to shock and surprise myself at every turn. But I cannot do that if I'm not willing to look at my past in a way that says it's information gathering. So the name of the book is The Body Keeps the Score. The author is Bessel van der Kolk. And I will put this in when I go to do the YouTube, when I go to look at the YouTube, I'll put this in there. I'll tag it in there. But it's The Body Keeps the Score, because essentially everything that you have experienced, your body holds on to it, measures it, quantifies it, qualifies it, says what impact it still has upon you. And so, he is a doctor, Dr. Van der Kolk, I believe, is a psychiatrist that has done work on trauma, extensive work on trauma and what it does to the body, and not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, what trauma does to our body. The Body Keeps the Score. Um, I've talked about another book. It was co-authored with Oprah and Dr. Barry. Oh my goodness, his name escapes me. But it's What Happened to You is the title of that book. Again, he is a pediatric neurologist that has done extensive research on what trauma does to children. And so this one is The Body Keeps the Score. The other one I have electronically. It's What Happened to You. If you Google search "What Happened to You" and put Oprah in the title, it will come up. We need to know what life experiences have done to us and what continue to show up. And if we are not using that information to give ourselves peace and to give ourselves justice, then we might just be caught in a cycle of negativity where it's literally like you're putting your finger in the wound. You're not trying to heal it. You're not trying to understand it. And you might be coming from that place over and over again in your self expression and the way that you feel about yourself. You are a whole being. You are a perfect being. And I know even saying that, some of us are like, yeah, but what about this? What about that? I'm not talking about the things we see with our eyes. I'm talking about the things that are within us and how we came into existence. You deserve peace, freedom, justice, love. You deserve all of it. And your little people are asking for it. When you are triggered or reacting to things, you're not doing it because you want to be a horrible, horrific individual. You're doing it for a reason. You believe that some injustice is happening and you are trying to rectify it. Wouldn't it be better to see what that injustice is and heal it? Because you may not be getting it externally. Like I said, the story that I shared, that man is long dead, gone. I can't even tell you his last name. I remember his first name. Don't know where his family is. Are they going to give me justice for what happened to me at 10? No. My parents are long gone. Are they going to now have a conversation that says, oh, we should have treated that differently? No, long gone, but it's still in here. And so I have to do the work to restore the injustice that was done at that period of time in my life. I can't change the facts. They are what they are. I tell the truth about what happened. I tell the truth about how it made me feel, but I also see it from a perspective of that is not going to stop me from loving people, because I know that there are people in the world who are not as loving as they could be. And so before we end for the day, let's take a deep breath and think about how we are now going to frame things from a position of power to say, these are things that I have always deserved to be present in my life. They may not have been. And it hasn't always deterred us from turning into monsters. I think that if I sum up or total all of the traumatic experiences in my life, the fact that I'm not a monster, I feel like I should get a gold star, a medal for. And that's the same for all of us. If you think about the worst times in your life, the horrible things, horrific things that have happened and that you have seen and experienced, if it has not turned you into a monster, gold star for you today. The fact that you still want to participate in life and love and give of yourself. Marissa is in the room. Marissa has written a book of affirmations based upon what she had to tell herself to pull herself out of a toxic environment. And she is offering it as a gift to the world. The fact that she didn't take all of that trauma and turn into a bitter human being, gold star for Marissa. And the fact that she is giving us a gift. That's her face. Y'all see her face? That's Marissa. I did an interview with you. Go to her YouTube channel. Marissa, put your YouTube channel in the comments, please. Um, and so you can go and watch our conversation about reclaiming and reconnecting to who we are. My 10-year-old learned how to betray herself because she wasn't given the information that she needed to feel safe. And so she internalized that as, I got to do this job because the people who are responsible for doing the job, the adults, are not doing it. So now I have to do what I think I'm supposed to do. Can you imagine being 10-year-old and trying to, with a 10-year-old mentality, trying to figure out how to keep yourself safe? Well, it must have been my fault, because the question my mother asked me made it seem as though it was my fault. And I know now as an adult that question came from a place of anger. That question came from a place of maybe her own unhealed 10-year-old trauma. And maybe those were the words that my grandmother or my grandfather said to her. I have no idea. But I know I didn't get what I needed in that moment, but I can give it to myself now. And I love the fact that I'm telling myself, girl, you are getting justice for your little people. You are getting what you deserve. You are giving yourself all of the things that you think you missed. And I can also tell myself, you may not have gotten it, but you still turned out to be an incredible human being despite what has happened. And I think that is the thing that I am proudest of. That despite the things that have happened to me in my life, I have turned into quite an interesting and incredible human being. And that means I love to share that with other incredible, interesting human beings. I love us. There is not one among us who has not experienced trauma. And if you are still trying to create beauty and love in the world, you are incredible. If life has not been kind to you and you are still trying to be kind to others, you are amazing. As I said earlier, there is a bounty, an abundance of good experiences to still be had. And if you are seeking those, knowing what you know about the world, you are miraculous. And you need to know that miraculous beings deserve miraculous interactions, energy, and you are deserving of peace and justice. And so let's take a deep breath, come into this moment. Oh, hello, beloved. My beloved is on. Beloved, I don't know how I stole your chess piece, but it wound up in my bag. We'll have a conversation about that later. Um, you are amazing. You are incredible. And I'm grateful to be experiencing life with you. I consider it an honor that for whatever reason we met each other and we get to share and create amazing experiences. Oh, thank you. You are an incredible human spiritual being. We all are. And I want us to start to see ourselves in that way because it will absolutely change the way you choose things for yourself, believe things about yourself. When you walk with that energy of I deserve great love, you won't accept anything less. And you won't spend your time complaining about it and focused on it. I don't even know what piece it is, beloved. What piece is that? It wound up in my bag. I'll bring it back. Um, if you know in your heart of hearts that you have had experiences in your life that were less than what you deserve, then give it to yourself now. You create it for yourself. Don't be waiting for other people to give it to you because you might be waiting a long time. So let's take a deep breath so that we create the energy of belief, of deserving, of requiring, of intending. Let's do so by saying, I know I require particular things to be the highest version of myself. I believe that I am deserving of those things. If it were not so, then the longing would not be in my body. The vision of it would not be in my spirit, and it wouldn't be something that I am familiar with needing. Just as it is possible to know and to understand and to respond to my body when it hungers and when it thirsts. I know when love is not present in the abundance that I deserve to be the highest version of myself. I trust my body when it's hungry. I trust my body when it's thirsty. I trust my body when it is longing to be respected, to be loved, and to be held as sacred. I know it when I am in experiences when I am feeling less than, or when I am seeing myself from a position of entitlement and over other creatures and beings. I know that the balance and restoration of all of that is my responsibility. And I know that I can gain that by looking at the places and spaces in my life where it may have been absent when it was needed, and that I can give it to myself now. I deserve peace at all times. I deserve justice at all times. I am creating it for myself and not waiting for others to give it to me. It shows up in my healthy boundaries. It shows up in the way that I express myself. It shows up in the way that I move in the world. It shows up in my face. Before I even speak a word, you know who I am because I know who I am and what I deserve. And I acknowledge that I haven't always known this. that I haven't always operated from that place. And there might be times in the near future, like today, where I'm not operating from that place of power. I acknowledge those moments too. When I am withholding, when I am limited, and when I'm not seeing the best version of myself. And I'm grateful that in those moments, the universe meets me, provides for me, pours into me. And I know that that is true because I know that within me, that belief that I deserve it is present. Even if it feels like it's in a small quantity, all I need is just a shred of that belief so that it continues to grow as I'm being poured into by the abundant love that is present for each and every single one of us. If I'm willing to see it that way, and if I'm willing to do my own personal work in my own personal universe to restore the balance that was present before I was even created, the balance that was present when I moved through one realm into another in this limited human experience. If I only focus on the things that I am not, I will never get to explore all the things that I am. And I'm grateful for the places and spaces where I get to be the balanced version of myself, where I get to self regulate myself, where I am in places and spaces where individuals see me and hear me and know when I'm out of balance and when I am restoring myself, that I don't need fixing, that I need restoration. And when I don't avoid those places and times, when I am fully aware and can appreciate that something may be out of balance and I can bring it back in because I'm more aware that it's what I deserve. I'm not being fixed, I'm being restored to my original state of being. And isn't that a healthy way to think about it? I'm not damaged, I'm not broken, I'm not being fixed, I'm being restored to my original state of being. I am no one's victim. I might be someone's villain, but that's the story that they want to tell. Unless there is something that I need to do to restore that. So if you've been out here acting like a monster in people's lives, you have to do something to restore that. You may not be responsible for the individual restoring it in themselves, but if you were participating in the damage, in the destruction, then there may be things that you have to atone for. And one of the ways that you can do that is be a better version of yourself and tell the truth. I know I've been a monster in some people's lives, and I have to acknowledge that. Now, whether or not they forgive me for it, I can't control that, but I absolutely have to tell the truth. My beloved and I talk about that all the time. You know, sometimes we are really not kind to one another, and we have to acknowledge it. You can't just act like it didn't happen. You have to say, you know what? That thing I said to you the other day, that wasn't nice. And I need to let you know that I'm acknowledging my part. If I've caused you, I don't care how much of an impact. If I've caused you to think of yourself in a horrible way or less than, I need to apologize for that. Not to tell all of our business, but we over pillows. There was a discussion about pillows and it went left. I'll just say that. And I needed to acknowledge, hey, I might have been a little harsh. I might not have been as kind as I intend to be. I may not have been as careful with you that I intend to be. I intend to be careful with the people that I love. And sometimes I'm not. I was unkind to my daughter the other day. I now recognize during Grandparents' Day. I was like, you get out of here. It wasn't that I didn't want her there. I wanted to experience it for myself, and I could have said it in a nicer way. And so, if you, doesn't matter how you intended for it to come across, you don't know how it's received. It's like when someone throws a ball, you don't know how it feels to the other person to catch it. Even if you're like, well, I threw it underhand, you don't know what it feels like or how hard it lands. That's all relative to the person that is receiving it. But if you have an awareness that, wait a minute, something that I said may not have been received in the way that I intended, clear it up. Now it's the other person's responsibility in terms of how they received it. It's our responsibility to be very clear. That was not my intention. And so when you are asking yourself, what do I require to feel? Make sure you're also saying, well, what do I need to do to make sure the other people in my experiences are safe? You can't be out here asking for something that you're not willing to give. So if I require safety, I have to give it. If you require peace, you have to be peaceful. If you require freedom, then you don't get to tell other people how to have a restricted life. Giving and receiving should be reciprocal. Please don't ask for things that you are not willing to give. You want to experience freedom in your life, but then you're campaigning for other people to have a limited experience. What's that? And so I hope this week, as you are asking yourself questions about what you require to feel, however it is you intend to feel, that you get very clear from a place of power and not a place of insecurity and maybe I don't deserve and I just want a little bit. You better own it. Own it like you know you need it to live because you do. Own it like you know you need it to breathe because you do. The energy of it has to be in all that you are. So if there is any shred of uncertainty, what you will receive will also look uncertain. So if you're out here like, well, I think I deserve, to be paid fairly, and you're coming across like, well, maybe now's not a good time to ask for it, or maybe I don't want to ask for too much, or maybe what many of us do, let me show out and go above and beyond, hoping that people will see it and give me what I know I deserve. Don't demand it, require it. Know that you deserve it. And it does not have to come across arrogant, angry, or violent. It simply comes across as a self assurance that this is what I was created for. And therefore, I require it to live. It sounds so plain and simple, and we make it so complicated. I am so grateful for this experience. And I have to, in full transparency and honesty, say that I may be, not that I may be, I know I am. Truthfully, I know I am delaying going into the next developmental area, which is 35 to 65, because that's the area that I'm in right now. And it is also the developmental stage where I have experienced my greatest heartaches. And so I am intending to start that next week. I don't know what it's going to look like because that is the stage that I am in presently. That 35 to 65, I'm not 65 yet, but I am living and experiencing as, we are presenting this. And I recognize the first half of that 35 to 65. That's where I experienced the majority of my trauma, but also the majority of my life's lessons. And so I don't know what it's going to look like. But I do know that that developmental stage comes with a lot of truth and a lot of faith. And those two things, truth and faith, sometimes butt heads, because sometimes when we're telling the truth, it disrupts our faith. Sometimes when we're holding on to faith, we're not telling the truth. Now, you do with that whatever you want to. That we will talk about next week. But I wanted to be transparent in saying that I've probably been dragging my feet over the last couple of weeks because I'm like, what is that going to look like? I don't know, but I am now on the side of excitement to see what it's going to look like. And I thank you for your participation. I thank you for your kind words, your support. I thank you for your love. And if whatever it looks like, oh, thank you. And I only feel safe enough to be vulnerable and to be honest because you have been that with me. And so I thank you for that. And yes, Marissa, whatever it looks like, we're going to see. Um, I know you're here for it all, David Harris. You've been here for most of the growth that I have experienced this past year, and again, I'm thankful for that. Like I get to love you, and I get to grow with you, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Thank you all for participating. Go out. Oh, what? Wait. How do we deal with that truth faith dichotomy? We're going to talk about that next week because I'm telling you, it can look like this, but it really is supposed to look like this. Like your faith can stand on the truth of what you know if you're telling the bald-headed truth. And your truth, there has to be faith that if I tell the truth, all things will work out. Uh, it's a battle. And I'm excited to talk about that battle, although I've been running from that battle. Yes, that dichotomy of truth and faith, it requires a lot of us. But it would not require a lot of us if we did not have a lot within us to meet the requirement. That is my belief. That is absolutely my belief that I would not be asked by the universe to do something if I didn't have it within me to do it. Because what a waste of time that would be. And what an imbalance that would be. And so I offer that to you while we wait for next week. The universe will never ask you to do something that you don't already have within you to do. It would be a waste of time. It would be an imbalance to do so. So if life is requiring you to do something, you may not have the conscious belief that you have the capability to do it. But I'm telling you, energetically, you absolutely do. And isn't that the part of life that is exciting? You finding out what you're capable of that exceeds your own human limitations. We'll talk about it next week. I love y'all. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your kindness, all of your giving. It is truly, truly something that keeps me centered and grounded through the week, even though a year ago I didn't want to do this. I am so grateful that I said yes and went and exceeded my own limitations about what this would look like and what this would be. Thank you all. I love you. Have a great rest of your Sunday.